Guys, good Wednesday morning. I'm Jerry Miller, and welcome to Real Talk on the I Love Seville Network. Thank you kindly for joining us. Today, we're presented by Ross Mortgage, Scott Morris, and Ross Mortgage. Trusted name you can rely on, guys, with financing of your house. So much to cover on today's program. You're going to love the Wednesday edition of the show. I've enjoyed the off-air commentary already, and that means Kerry Griggs is in the house. This guy, an agent with Keller Williams Alliance. All-around A-plus guy, all-around high energy, likable dude. Scott Morris, you guys know as well, likable guy as well. Scott, we were talking before the show started. When Kerry's around, I feel like I just got like a shot of adrenaline.
Yeah, high energy dude. I mean, just and great to be around. There's always something going on in his world as well, whether it's rugby or real estate. He's high energy.
Multiple businesses this guy owns. He said last time on the show that he was coming for everyone in Central Virginia. And I love the hustle and the chutzpah. Kerry, how's it going? How's the market? How's your business? How's your family?
Business is going well. The market's doing pretty well. Family's doing awesome. I'm just very blessed that I was able to get into an industry that I actually love. Some days don't even feel like work. You wake up and you just do what you do. I talked to you before the show started, and we're in the people business, and so having the ability to speak with people every day, and they actually have a need, and I used to say that I was in the sales business, but I've changed my mindset a little bit. I'm actually in the service business, and I'm in the people business, so I get to interact with people every day, and I just get to help them fill their needs.
Scott Morris, you're also in the service business, as am I. How's the market? How's the temperature out there?
So we've seen things slow down just a little bit, but again, not necessarily a negative. I'm having people find more success getting under contract. The big picture is, I think we're already in a recession. We saw one, first quarter negative GDP print. We're going to see most likely a negative in the second, which will actually trigger that. We're going to see the Fed continue to increase 50 basis point moves, probably through July, possibly September. And in doing so, we're going to see two things happen. We're going to see a lot of volatility in the bond market while people continue to exit because of an inflation hedge, and people enter because of safe money. It's the safest money during a recession. So what that kind of means is I think we are very probably close to where I've said we were as far as the top, as far as mortgage rates go. Just because you're going to be, there's going to be some fluctuation, but you're going to find a bit of a balance in what's going on with the bond market there, with people buying in and selling out for whichever story is taking the hot line of the week.
So let me try to decipher what you said. And you explained it well. Your message has been consistent every time you've been on the show. You're saying this is peak rates right here?
I think so. I think,
okay.
And I've said we've plateaued, and we've actually come down a little bit since I said that we were at the top. I don't believe that. I think we can probably run back up a little bit, and I think we're going to going forward. But until we have kind of reached a peak inflation, you're going to see people exit bonds. But once we officially start using the R word, you're going to see big money hedge back into bonds because it's a safe place to be. So that's going to kind of keep us balanced, and I think right around running where we are as far as rates go.
So I'm going to ask you, Kerry, how interest rates are affecting your business. Before I do, I want to follow up with Scott here because I think he's dropping consistent knowledge here. When will rates drop back again or will they ever, to pandemic levels? I mean, will we ever see
pandemic levels, lifetime lows? Probably not. But
never.
but the
mid threes possible.
I mean, it's going to take a catastrophe to push them back down. That's what took us to get there.
Yeah.
But are they going to go back down into the 4s? Yeah, and I
Okay.
think they'll be there first quarter next year.
Okay, so that right there was fantastic content. Cut it through that answer. That's good knowledge right there from Scott. So Kerry, how are the rates affecting your business? You said before the show you feel the market moving. I'll let you characterize how.
Yeah, so I feel the market moving in the sense that it's, with the interest rates going up, it has priced some people out of the price range that they were looking for. Not that they don't qualify for homes anymore, but, that where they were overreaching or maxing out to what they could, you're seeing less and less of that. And so when I was talking earlier to you about it, it's not as stiff as competition. Instead of, 10 bids on a particular home, you may be competing against 2 others. And so it makes it a little more desirable for buyers that have been in the market and that are willing to stick it out and kind of just get the ideal house that they want, and they're willing to bid on it.
Did you see a rush of buyers enter the market as rates were starting to move quickly?
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
So when the interest rates were as low as the 3%, and even I seen some 2.75s. I mean, everybody was in the market. Everybody was trying to get a house at the low interest rate, and that's where we were having the multiple bids, and I mean double digits. And it made it a little bit stiff for the competition. And unless you were willing to go above what the appraised value would be, it made it hard for those first-time home buyers.
Do you think we'll see, Scott, you predict, was it the end of next year in the 4s? Is that what you said?
I said first quarter next year.
First quarter next year. Will we see a slowdown potentially in business and transactions as potential buyers try to wait out a gap down in rates?
I don't think that's not what drives real estate transactions. People's what's going on in their lives does. So no, I don't think that's gonna make a huge difference there. And plus, if you're out there as a first-time buyer trying to time the market, I think you're making a very poor decision. So I mean, what we're going to see is that the Fed has to combat inflation, so they're going to keep raising rates to go along with it. They still have to unload their balance sheet of $9 trillion, which the market has said it's priced in, but we actually haven't seen the government take action on. So once they start doing that, we'll see where the truth really is. But anyway, ultimately, we're going to run into a recession. We're going to go through a period of what they're, I guess, whether you want to go call it stagflation or whatever, because we're going to jobless rates are going to increase again, and then at some point, once they've run as far as they can go with dealing with inflation, they're going to put their thumb back on the scale, whether it be with bond buying or something. They're going to come back in, and it's going to drive rates back down.
How have you altered your business to accommodate tightening inventory and rising rates, Kerry?
I have a in-depth conversation with my folks before we go out there and start looking, and I get real specific with them. We start with a wide net, so I usually tell most folks when we're getting into the process and I first start talking to them about buying a house, I usually talk to them and get an overreaching view of what their real estate goals are going to be, and then once we get that set in place, we start shopping around there. And so this way I know that I'm spending the maximum amount of time focusing on the things that they want to do. And for me, the business has been going pretty well. I try to get at least one contract under contract a week, and as I move towards that, I hyper focus in on my buyer's needs or my seller's needs, depending on what the situation is. And then I have honest conversations with them, with the pullback or leveling, plateauing of the housing prices. I have those honest conversations with the sellers, and I let them know, in the heat of the market, you would have been able to get this, but here's what I think the market is going to set the tone at, and then we don't run into appraisal issues unless somebody bids it up.
Are you seeing more appraisal gap?
Yeah, I see more appraisal gap contingencies in contracts when they come over.
How often? Because that was the norm.
Yeah.
Is that still the norm? And are you seeing home inspections returning?
Yeah, I do see home inspections returning. They're still as is home inspections, but I don't think I've put in a deal that has been a resale home without a competing offer in a while.
Are you seeing contingencies return, Scott?
So I'm seeing concessions return, depending. Now again, property dependent. If it is, if it's a $500,000 property and it's perfect in the right neighborhood, it's still getting all the attention from all the people who can afford to give it the attention. Now, if it's a little lesser priced because it's got some deferred maintenance and needs some love and it's just not in the right area, that's where you're seeing things sit maybe long enough for people to be able to go out and say, we can make this work for us, but here's what we need to do that.
That's the biggest thing that I've seen in this past couple months is houses are staying on the market for longer and giving people an opportunity to get their bid in. That's probably the biggest thing that I've seen shifting.
Are you seeing? We talk about this with a lot of agents. Are you seeing? Is it buyer fatigue? Are you seeing buyer frustration where it's enough already?
Yeah. And I think that was really maybe 2 months ago. I was seeing the most of it was back then, and that's weird to say back then because it was only 60 days. But, that's when the market was super hot. And I think, again, now we're starting to see it cool down just a little bit.
Scott, as far as rates go, questions are coming in. This one's from Grayson asking you, does he expect rates to drop below 5 this year if the Russian-Ukrainian war comes to an end? That's a hell of a crystal ball question.
I mean, I don't see how that brings rates down.
Yeah.
That was when it started. That was a driver of actually making rates dip a little bit because you look at big global and what did I say at the time? Geopolitical events don't last very long in everyone's memory, so it was like 2 weeks of like doom and gloom, and then it was like that here
news cycle change.
Yeah, now we're back to where we are. I don't see Russia really affecting U.S. mortgage rates unless things get significantly worse somehow.
All right. Follow-up question from Lauren for Kerry. Speak to the concessions and contingencies that the Realtor is seeing now with the deals he is doing.
So with the contingencies, it's more of, as is home inspections or even waiving home inspection, depending on what the, as an agent, I try to communicate with the other side, say, what is your seller or what is your buyer ultimately looking for? And I get the same kind of questions. They ask me, what is your seller looking for? Is it a rent back scenario? Do they have money for concessions or, I'll put in some seller concessions as well if I think I can get away with it. And I just talked to the other side and I asked them, hey, do you have any other offers in hand? Because my buyer would like to keep more cash in pocket for any repairs that may come up if we're going to do an as-is home inspection. So, it's starting to loosen up a little bit. Again, like you said earlier, the appraisal gap waivers contingency was a big one. That was kind of standard across the board when submitting an offer. But now, I don't see as many of those. And for the seller concessions, like I said, if you're going to do an as-is home inspection, that's going to be expected. People like to keep a little more cash in hand.
Sure. Where are the deals you're doing?
So I do deals in Charlottesville. I go all the way to Richmond. I currently have one under contract in Chesterfield. And, I do them over on the other side of the mountain as well. I stretch as far as Richmond to Stanton, from Culpeper to Lynchburg.
Wow. That's some territory right there.
Yeah, I like it. But I've kind of been around these areas for long enough to know, and I do my research. So, mainly in Charlottesville.
What do you see as the biggest difference between the areas? Whether it's how do you see the way things get priced in certain areas different than another, and are certain areas less competitive than another?
Yeah, so I will say the Charlottesville area tends to be more expensive, and in some parts of Richmond are the same. If you go on the other side of the mountain in the Waynesboro, Stanton, Fishersville area, they're priced a little bit less, but the competition is a little bit more over there. So it's a better price point as far as lower price points, but the competition, you are still getting those 8 to 10 people on one transaction. So it's a little bit different over there. But over here in the Charlottesville side, I find that the more centered in, it just makes sense, the more centered to the location of the cities, it's going to be more expensive. But as you expand out to the counties, you can do Louisa, Palmyra, Orange, Gordonsville, some places, Grottos on the other side of the mountain. Those seem to be more cost effective and not as competitive.
How many folks are you seeing from Central Virginia or the Charlottesville area priced out and now looking closely to the Valley?
Probably a third,
Wow.
with the interest rates going up like they were. They were really stretching to be in the center of Charlottesville with the interest rates at 4%. And as they climb, closer to that 6%, their cost or their buying power has went down quite a bit as far as what they can afford. So, they're starting to expand out. So the conversations that I was getting beforehand, let's say a year ago, was I want to be 15 to 20 minutes away from Charlottesville, now has expanded to 35, 45 minutes inside of Charlottesville. And usually when that conversation comes up, I ask them how do they feel about being on the other side of the mountain, the Afton, Waynesboro area. Most people are open to it because it's not that far of a drive. It's only a 30-minute drive. It's no different than coming from Zion's Crossroads.
Sure. Keith Smith for Scott. Mortgage application, Scott.
We've seen things slow down a little bit in the last couple weeks. But again, I've said ebbs and flows, and I think that, I'll say that, and then we'll have a weekend where we get a ton of activity. So we're a little below where we were below in May so far where we were in April.
Mateo Baker. I'm giving you some props right now. What's up, K-Dog?
What's up?
Giving you some love. So is Dalton Carr,
nice.
Larry Castle, and Dan Nolan.
That's great. Hey, guys.
If you want to relay something to Kerry or Scott or ask a question, put it in the comment section, and we will relay it live on air to the guest guys.
Nice.
How about the refinance business, Scott?
The people who are refinancing are those, who need the cash or, separation of marriages, stuff like that. Those are the ones that are always going to exist for a purpose, but no one's refinancing for a lower rate right now.
Right.
Yeah.
Kerry, let's talk about the commercial you're doing. I'm
Yeah.
very curious about that. I saw the Louisa listing that you had.
Yeah, so I wanted to branch into the commercial side just because I feel like to be a professional in my industry or an expert in my industry, I have to touch all aspects of it. And I have a commercial listing. It was a bakery in the Louisa area, and it's a good price point.
Great price point.
It's in the twos, in between 2 and 3. So, I want to get into that commercial space as well and just, be an expert. I think there's a lot of opportunity there. There's a lot of vacant commercial real estate around, and it'd be great to take advantage of it. That the Albemarle and Charlottesville side sometimes makes it difficult for businesses, but I think with the right business, getting into some of these places will just bring more revenue into here, and that's if I can help be a part of that, I would love to be a part of that.
Kevin Higgins watches the show all the time. He said, do you think it's softening the commercial market?
Yeah, I do. Like I said, I would love to get more businesses in there. It was very, it doesn't move as quickly. I'm noticing it doesn't move as quickly on the commercial side. People, their needs are just a little bit different. They're looking at it from a business standpoint, and, they tend to be more calculated. It's not as an emotional buy as what it was like an investment. They come at it from a business mindset, not a needs.
What's the rest of the year look like for you, Scott?
The rest of the year, I think we're going to, we help residential buyers, and I've kind of talked about this for, some time now. Those people's decisions are not based on market conditions as much as their own needs. So making sure that you can communicate at a high level and be a trusted advisor for these people so that when they're working with a team, they're working with Kerry and I or Keith and I, and they know that they've got people who are on their side, who are guiding them through the process. that is successfully putting them in a home. So a lot of my conversations are, are you going to go spend $1,800 a month in rent or $2,000 a month in a mortgage where you're actually building equity, and then 12 months from now we refinance you into a lower rate? You're already ahead of the game, or you're going to continue to run behind, dumping out another 20G in rent.
That is the best piece of advice that I've heard you say on the show so far. Like, honestly, it's having those in-depth conversations, and that part right there. Are you going to spend your money on rent? Or are you going to actually tie an investment into what you're doing right now? That's solid gold right there.
Sake of a talk show. How's the millennial and younger buying in this market, Kerry?
So again, they're most of them are first-time home buyers or
tough market for first-time home buyers.
Yeah, so having those in-depth conversations and those honest conversations, and you also have to communicate with them very well. Like Scott said, communicate on a high level, and I think that's really what they need. I know, you can't just get them under contract and then just communicate it with them. You need to be that trusted advisor all the way through it. They're having some success in this market as it's starting to soften a little bit.
Put that in perspective with some of the deals you've done.
That sweet spot for those, the buyer pool. First-time home buyers somewhere between, well, not all of them, but the majority of what I see is between that 200 and 350 range, and so that's a very competitive market because everybody is looking for that. Not just the first-time home buyers, but the investors as well. It's an investment opportunity, like Scott said. They're now turning them into rentals, and they're getting, it's a business proposition for them. But now it's starting to be where they are actually having more success in getting into the market because of the buyer fatigue that most buyers have dropped out, or they have now been pushed out because of the interest rates, and now they're going to work on their credit for the next year to try to get to them where they need to be. But those that were honestly prepared for it, and they're having some success in it now.
Are you seeing with these price points and rates where they're going or where they've gone, Scott, are you seeing investor money on the street, or has that softened?
So I think you're starting to see it soften a little bit since rates have gone up. Then it becomes a cash flow. Like, how much sense does this truly make for me? And now there's still people out there looking for the right deal, which gives even more credit to what Kerry's talking about as far as the lower the price point, the more likely there's an investor out there looking to buy it, which makes it tough for first-time home buyers. But I think everything is softened. I think people are kind of they're wary about are they shopping at a top right now? And I think the answer to that is probably no, just because we're going to, again, I've said hopefully we've got to see we can't see a continued appreciation of 20% a year over year on these properties. That's just not reality.
Sure. Yeah.
But I think 3% probably is, and as we get there, you're going to see more people come back in.
Investors, what are you seeing, Kerry?
I work with more of the buyer side, not a lot of the investors. I have some investors that I work with, and they're trying to buy up homes as rental properties. But you know what? The majority of the people that I work with are buying for, residential. That's where they're going to have their family. The investor side of things, not so much in the residential side. They're looking more for commercial, duplex, quadplexes, or, commercial spaces.
I'll tell you what. I see a positive of what's coming up for us. You talk about rates potentially stabilizing. We're looking at a market where buyers have more opportunity to potentially get in homes than they have had in a long time. You've got markets potentially stabilizing over from a stock market standpoint. And hopefully this war subsides and slows down. Time will tell on that. But I'm feeling pretty good about this. I know we have 3 guys at this table that are all bulls and positive people. But are you not feeling pretty good about where things are going? Or are you still not a little lukewarm, Scott?
I'm a little lukewarm about the next 90 days, 120 days. With the what do we see? What does the Fed continue to do? How does the market react? That is, kind of the balance between big money that's buying into bonds for recession concerns, or those that are selling out due to an inflation hedge. That makes me a little nervous. Like who gets the bigger piece of that pie? And because that's truly what's going to drive rates. And I think it's going to be, there's enough of a balance there that I feel like we've plateaued, but that's the one thing that makes me nervous.
How about you? What makes you nervous, Kerry?
I'm not so much nervous about it. I think as long as you're doing good business and doing right by people, they're going to continue to come back. And I think that I'm personally excited about it. Just a little bit of slowing would be beneficial to, I think, all parties. The sellers are still going to sell their home because there's a need for it. We're low inventory, and that's just, what it is. That's the reality of real estate right now. We're low inventory. The houses are still going to move, but it just gives buyers an opportunity to get to where they want to be. And hopefully we see more houses come to the market so that we can satisfy this need.
Do you expect more houses to come to this market?
I do. I think once things start to plateau a little bit more, hopefully, like Scott said, with the next 90 or 120 days, with the rates going up, you're going to see not so many buyers into the buyer pool, and then that's going to eliminate some of the concerns about going over price for buyers. And then so sellers are going to realize that it's not so scary to be out in the market anymore. And I think that's the big reason why we didn't have as much inventory, because one of the questions I would always get asked on a listing appointment, okay, well, if I sell this home, where am I going to go? Well, there's still homes out there. And if you can get $120,000 of equity out of your home, I heard one of your guests say, if you can get $120,000 out of your home, you can rent for 3 months until you find that perfect home for you. I mean, you still have money to.
That was Sasha.
Yep.
That was a good point.
It was.
What were you going to say?
Yeah, no, I think so. We're seeing more inventory come on, even now, and depending on the area, I think it really gives you. With fewer buyers, I'm starting to see deals get accepted with concessions. We're starting to see more and more of these things happen. That wasn't the case 3 months ago. It just wasn't. It just wasn't there. And I said that's the one thing I'm nervous about, but I'm still super optimistic about where things go, because again, people don't make these decisions based on a whim. They're generally because we're having a baby, or I need to move to the area. There's something significant that's going on in my life that's creating this transaction. And the same thing for sellers. I've seen I had an appraisal come in short for something that was comps just didn't support, and the seller was super stodgy about not coming down the price. The buyers walked. And then 3 days later, I got a call from the agent, and he said, "Hey, the seller's changed his mind. He thinks this really is a fair price." And I was like, "Well, unfortunately, they're not going back to that one. So, that's that."
I am excited to see the concessions come back. I always like to see how people get creative with their money. So, when buyers are able to keep more money in their pocket to do home renovations, when I go back to have dinner with them in the next 3 months, they say, "Look at what I've done to the house." And I always like to see how buyers get creative with the money that they had to put into their homes, And I think that's where you get a lot of the sweat equity out of it. If they redo their kitchen, and there's some creative people out here, Pinterest has changed the game for a lot of people.
Please don't tell my wife.
Or TikTok, just in general. I see all these things, and I'm like, oh man, I'm gonna have to do this at my home now. My wife's been asking me for a deck for the longest time. Sorry, honey.
But you and Scott have the talent to do it. I do not have the talent to do it.
Yeah,
but
you got the vision.
Have the talent.
You got the vision, though. I know. I see your style, man.
I've spent the last few weeks in North Carolina.
I followed your Facebook posts.
Yeah, putting some of that together. I've got new floors and all kinds of little projects going on.
That looked incredibly time-consuming and laborious.
Yeah, it was a little bit of that, but it's done now, so that's exciting. But but back to as far as buyers getting concessions, this is the largest purchase that they're making in their lifetime. The fact that they can't go in and ask for repairs on a home inspection is insane.
Yeah. Insane. And let's cut to the chase. With concessions coming back, now you guys can negotiate and provide potentially even more value. Because there went an 18-month period, maybe 24 months, where it was like, here's the price. There was no negotiation really happening. I mean, now it's coming back. Can you put that in perspective, and we'll get to some comments that are coming in.
Yeah, so when you're able to negotiate with price, it's not like, I'm not going to say we're putting in bids that are lower than the asking price. It's just we're not having to escalate them up as much as what we were. Or maybe we get to actually have a home inspection where you can ask for repairs. And ain't that nice? It's like, oh, you get to go through a house and, if this is wrong with it, you can at least ask the, seller to fix the leaky faucet.
Because, dude, it was getting so freaking insane.
It was insane.
You have 15 minutes to tour the house. We have interest rates, the lowest they've ever been. You have 15 minutes to tour the house. There was people that were making offers and then having to bring bags of cash to the table to cover the difference between the appraisal and the offer itself. It was people were buying homes via FaceTime.
Oh, yeah. Done a couple of those.
Not going in the houses. They were saying no home inspection.
Yeah.
They're saying, at best, a pass-fail.
Yeah.
It was getting insane.
Well, I'm not going to say that it's completely went away. I just lost one with no home inspection, and it escalated. It had to be at least $75,000 over asking price.
Was that the city or Albemarle County?
It was Albemarle County.
Yeah.
And so, it's still happening. It's, but it was a great property.
That's the thing.
Yeah. So
the right property is always going to bring.
And it was a good property. I don't know if it was a great property. I told my buyer, I was like, even as a contractor, I don't know if I would do a no inspection on this one because there were some issues that I seen. But ultimately, I tell my buyers and sellers, hey, you're the driver, I'm the vehicle to get you to your destination, and then this way, they're the decision makers. I'm their trusted advisor, and I can give them all the advice they want. But at the end of the day, it's up to them to make the decision. And so when they need, most of the time I get, what would you do? And I'm like, here's the numbers that support this, and this is what I would do. And whether they go with my opinion or not, that's their decision.
You guys will appreciate this. From Montana, Duggar.
Oh, nice.
She says, Kerry Griggs, looking good, brother.
Thanks, man.
And then rest of the panel, did all three of you guys coordinate shirts together?
You know what? I thought the same thing when I walked in this morning. I was like, yeah, man, we look great.
Montana, that was hilarious. Cameron Gray giving Kerry Griggs some props.
Nice.
You can
Thanks,
tell
brother.
the guy is well liked by the community. Tori McDaniel, Stephanie Keller giving you props right now.
Nice, guys. Thank you.
Can you speak to the insanity you saw that may be tempering slightly, Scott?
We talk about buyer fatigue, and you talk about 3 months ago. I remember last August, I had people who were just like, dude, I'm done. I'm like, so done. And these are people who'd been out there months just, trying to find the right property. The last really year, we've had people in and out of the market. When you hear from, this is a little more Northern Virginia, but on a $900,000 property, I've got a borrower.
The squatter?
No. I've got buyers who go in and the agent makes a call while they're in the house, and the listing agent's like, "Oh, sorry, we've already accepted an offer." Just some where there's 20 plus already going. That was a little bit of chaos, a little crazy.
Yeah, it was chaos. What chaos did you see?
Well, are you talking about making offers while you're in the house? I did that 2 weeks ago, and I was like, hey, we want this offer. What do we need to do?
So wait, you're on the tour?
Yeah, I'm on the tour.
This is the first tour?
Yeah. As we're going through there, it's like, well, we need a 10% down check. I'm like, okay, great. We're writing it right now. We'll send you a photo.
Yeah, I'm talking about somebody in the house going, hey, we're ready to make $100,000 over, and the listing agent's like, sorry, we've already accepted an offer while the people are in the house.
That is so insane.
One of the craziest things I've sold is I had a guy that was from overseas, military guy, never seen the house, only communicated via email. I was a little skeptical. I was like, man, this is a little nerve-wracking. He's like, I want the house. I'm going to send somebody.
Is this like a Craigslist hustle?
Yeah. He said, I want the house. Let's place a bid on it. I'm like, okay, great. Can I have somebody that come and at least to the
Look at
house
it.
so I can
Yeah.
see that somebody is real. And so he did. And, we closed on a $500,000 transaction without even seeing. I never talked to the guy on the phone. It was only via email. I was like, wow, this is crazy.
How
But,
did he fall in love with the property?
He's seen photos online and did a virtual tour. This is, I was like, wow, that's brave. But you know what? I mean, a great guy. I still keep in contact with him today. Still never spoke to the man. But he's a great guy, via email and postcard.
So the extent of the communication is email and postcard?
Yeah, great guy.
That's awesome. God, that is so awesome.
I mean,
I
it works,
love
though.
Kerry. I love this.
Hey, adapt and overcome. Like
Yeah,
you said, when this market got crazy, you had to just go with the flow. And so, like I said, it's one of those things. It's a little nerve-wracking when you do things like that, but as long as all the proper documents are in place.
Sure, of course.
And everything goes smoothly. And, I communicate with the other agent. I think that is one of the biggest keys, and especially when I'm trying to help new agents or coach new agents of how to do business and do it successfully. Communication, just high levels of communication with everybody. And if all of us can meet together, the listing agent, the buyer's agent, and the two parties can meet together, that's even a better win for me, honestly, so that we just air everything out. It's our job as agents. We don't think with emotions. We are the rational people in the transaction.
I don't deliver. There's no good news or bad news. It's just news.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I think that's the biggest, part of our job is just being the professional, thinking at this with clear mindset. And then, when the buyers and sellers start to get excited or, disappointed, it's our job to bring them back to center and, get the transaction done. And so communication with the other agent is key.
Are you seeing Zoomtown in Central Virginia anymore? The out-of-market buyer setting up a home office, ISP, working for an employer out of market?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I do, and I see a lot of that going on right now. I think that's a great opportunity, and that's, there were a couple positives that came out of COVID, and I think having the ability to make money anywhere now is great. You can do it from your laptop, and a lot of people are. They find that, and I think that's where the commercial industry got hit the worst, was that, everybody's downsizing. So you don't need these 5,000 square foot offices anymore because a lot of the people can do it from home.
Yeah, but depending on your business model, you got to have people back face to face. Collaborative learning, collaborative work, mentorship. None of that happens from a Zoom call, and you get. There's just a certain level of, fatigue that comes from trying to operate that way. I came on the show last year when we were trying to do it that way. It's just
tough.
It's just a different monster.
Yeah.
And not just for something like this.
I think you did it from your bedroom.
With the green screen in the background.
And the connection was choppy, right?
Yeah. It's like something to do with like my AirPods or something. Like every time is like, there was a huge an echo. I don't know what was going on. It was crazy.
I do believe that there are some industries that are okay with working from home, but in our situation, being belly to belly with a client or face to face, there's no. I personally feed off other people's energy.
Yeah, me too.
So
we all do.
Like when I'm in a room with heavy hitters like you guys, it makes it. It makes it a lot better for me because I can feed off your energy, and you guys are just good folks. So it makes it a lot better for me. I have a more positive day when I leave here, so it's good.
Such a likable guy, Scott Morris.
That's I'm telling you.
Such a likable guy. We love carrying this program. What are you seeing with the? This is an interesting question that just came up. Do you guys have offices where you meet clients?
Yes.
You guys are on the road all the time. Put that in perspective where you're meeting clients, Kerry.
So I have an office off Remsen Court, and so Keller Williams' office is upstairs on the 4th floor, but I have my own personal office downstairs on the 2nd floor, and that's usually if clients are more comfortable coming in and signing contracts, we meet in my office, and then this way we can have that meeting. And, especially a first time, communicating with somebody, they got to come in and sign the proper forms. But, if they're more comfortable with meeting on site, I understand people are busy, I am too, so if they're more comfortable with meeting on site because they got time for these 2 showings and then they got to get back to their business, I'll do that too. But I think having an office is important.
Yeah, 100%. I meet people at my office here in Charlottesville. I've got a couple different locations that I will host meetings at. But office in Culpeper, we actually host closings. We do face-to-face with clients. if someone needs something, like Kerry, I have a very similar demographic as far as areas go. Like I'm in Richmond, Lynchburg, North Carolina, and if need be, I'll get face to face with the client for document collection just to go through an interview and give that level of comfort.
Who's putting more mileage on the vehicle, you or Scott?
I don't know. I average somewhere right around 50 or 60 a year.
50 or 60,000?
Yeah, but like I said, I go from one side
That's
of
That's a
more than you.
no-brainer. Yeah.
I go
Not
from
quite bad.
I go from Richmond to Stanton and then to Madison, and back to
Damn,
Charlottesville.
dude, you're putting 50 or 60,000 miles a year?
Yeah.
Wow.
But I mean, I don't mind. I enjoy driving. My
You lease or own? Can I ask that?
I own.
Yeah?
Yeah. So, up until recently, I'm heck on vehicles. So, I live out of them, and my wife's always on me. She's like, hey, you gotta change your oil. You gotta change your oil. I'm like, all right, great, when I have time. So that one has actually come back to bite me in the butt. Blew out a Jeep Cherokee motor one time through a rod because there was no oil in it. Dummy.
Wow.
But again, it's just I'm on the road.
I have a problem getting in for state inspections.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
Oh, mine was rolling around. Well, never mind.
Me too.
But I mean, I don't mind driving, and with Bluetooth, it's a phone call comes in, you just say answer, or I throw in my earpods, and I'm like, okay, great, and then so you just communicate with people.
What's the mileage impact on that? I mean, have you considered narrowing the sales footprint as mileage has gone up, as gas prices have gone up?
Not really.
No?
I just figured it's a cost of doing business. I mean, but that's not for everybody. I know people that only work in a certain subdivision. That's not my personality. My personality, I like to be places. I like to travel. I like to be in front of different people. It's a different dynamic everywhere I go. The Richmond market is totally different from the Charlottesville market. But I like the Richmond market too. I love going into the center of Richmond. It's a little chaotic sometimes, but I also drive the backcountry roads, and that's fun too. It gives me a chance, and I love listening to a podcast when I'm not talking on the phone to people. I have some great people that I work with that are in the office, and they kind of have my back there, so they're allowed. They get the paperwork done, and it frees up my time to be in front of people. And I mean, if you break it down. But when I was swinging a hammer 40, 50 hours a week, I was only making X. But, that's why I try to do one contract per week. And if I can do that, it's a 40-hour with one client, right? So, and the breakdown for that makes it so much better. I'm successful because I can get in front of people.
I like it. I like this guy. I like what you stand for. Dan Pettit, good morning. He's watching the program here. Folks over at Long and Foster and Ness Realty watching the program. Here's an interesting topic that's come up. Ask the guests what they think the realtor and mortgage broker of the future looks like.
It's not automated.
I think definitely for you. I think certainly for real estate as well. I mean, during COVID, it was all about brand for mortgage and real estate. The folks that built the brand. What is the next strategy for you guys? Or the industry?
I personally think it's going to be having that communication and being in front of people. Yeah, people like the brand too, and especially with COVID and people doing Zoom things. But just being in front of people, you're going to see that with things getting a little bit tougher, you're going to see some agents that just can't withstand the market. So you're going to have to be in front of there. And I think ultimately the ones that are producing and doing it well are going to get more of the market share. So just being in front of people, that's why I'm dynamic with where my locations are.
I've seen an enormous amount of paid Facebook advertising.
It's everywhere.
Yeah.
It's everywhere.
In the last 30 to 60 days, like mortgage-wise, individual LOs. But again, I think that's literally taking money and just throwing it out the window for the most part, because people are the business, and if you can't connect and create relationships, you can plaster your face wherever you want it to be without success.
You want to comment on that, Kerry? And then the follow-up question would be, is there desperation out there now?
So I'll follow up on Scott's thing. I don't think that you could just post ads out there anymore. You might have been able to get away with that in pandemic because everybody is online. But I do think that there is an opportunity with how much reach that we have now, to be in front of people. I think that with social media in general, we can get more eyes on our products, especially on the selling side. We can get more eyes on our products now. And I think that's very beneficial. And then what was the second part of the question?
I mean, I was talking with some agents, and they were talking about the sense of the competition has almost segued into they said, into the category of desperation.
Yeah, I mean, you can tell it when somebody is, they need a sale. That one, it kind of resonates with you. And again, we're in the service business, and so I don't look at it as, I need to make a sale. I look at it as, how can I help you? And that one has actually taken me further in business than any other thing that I've realized, is how can I help you? Because when you come at it from that standpoint, most people is like, and I'll tell a buyer to walk away from a house. I'm like, listen, as a licensed contractor, I don't know if I'd even take on this project. I mean, you do what you want to. We can get you some quotes if you would like, but this is a lot of stuff to manage. And I'd rather see them, and I've had more success that way. And they say, okay, well, at least you're being honest with me. Yeah, we're going to eventually buy a house, and it's going to be from you. And then I've had people say that, they've had 4 real estate agents before me, and I was the only one that stuck with them until the end of the transaction.
Is it scary when you hear them say, I've had 4 agents before you?
Most of the times they tell me that.
Is that a bit of a red flag?
No, not necessarily. Maybe they weren't listening to what they were saying. And for me, just being able to understand and communicate clearly. So I went to a seminar recently, and, he said something that clicked to me. He's like, I am trying to work on my communication skills. I want to make sure I understood you correctly. It sounded like you're telling me this is what you want. And they're like, yes, exactly. No one else has heard me. And I'm like, okay, great. So that works well. It's a good communication
It's kind of
tool.
like the whole question behind the question. Yeah, that's definitely something that, in trying to help someone is finding out what their needs truly are. And if you can do that, you can overcome objections before they really become objections.
More questions. You guys are doing a great job. This is from Dan Pettit, for you specifically. He's a realtor, Dan. With buyers that can only go up to $350K, are you finding a lot for these buyers in the townhome and condo space?
Yeah, and so that's ideally, let's back up, just to understand where they're going. If they're going to be in the Charlottesville area, that seems to be the reasonable option. I don't think you can buy a house for $350,000 like a detached single-family home. Albemarle.
Yeah.
So, when somebody comes to me with that kind of budget, I usually ask them if they're okay with a townhome or a condo setting. And if they say no, I said, okay, well, then we're going to have to expand out to the counties. And if they say yes, then I'm like, okay, great. And then, are you open to new construction? Having an honest conversation. What's your time frame look like? Oh, you have 6 to 8 months. Are you open to a new construction? New construction to me is a much easier segue into being a homeowner because it's not as stiff a competition and you don't have to deal with someone else's problems. Even though it could look pretty, doesn't mean that they took good care of it.
Homeowners insurance is going to be significantly less.
Yeah, and I just think that new construction is a great option if you can get people wrapped around the idea and have those conversations early and have them often. If you can, again, from a contractor's background, I think that's the better move to go.
Follow-up question for both you guys. Since you both drive all over Virginia, what are the hot spots for homes in Virginia right now in the areas that you guys serve?
Ooh.
Scott, you want to go first?
I mean, the whole state.
Yeah.
But you talked a lot about Richmond.
Yeah, and what's good, Richmond is you can find some softer price points, and Chesterfield, that area. It just depends on what you're looking for, and what your opportunity for your clients, what they're looking for really is. But as far as competitiveness, it's still very hot everywhere.
Yeah, Charlottesville, Culpeper, Richmond, parts of Richmond. I know I was driving around Chesterfield County. Those houses were going quickly. Louisa, Lake Monticello, Waynesboro, Stanton, Those are all booming.
Which parts of Richmond would you not include there? Is that West End of Richmond? It's
West,
a little pricier there.
Yeah, it is, and especially as you get more towards the center, like Short Pump. Once you get closer to there, those prices are booming. Chesterfield, depending on which side of Chesterfield you're on the south side, as you get closer to, I find a lot of times as you get closer to military bases, the price point goes up. Chesterfield is right, not too far away from Fort Lee. So, yeah, military folks, when they turn over, the housing prices, they jump.
You got this from Thomas. Zion's Crossroads. Ask them about Zion's Crossroads.
100%. I live in Zion's Crossroads, so I was excited to see it boom like it has been. I bought my house 10 years ago, though, so, I got mine on a pretty good deal. And I bet I have a good amount of equity into my home right now. And it's only because things are booming. We just got the Checkers out there. We got the 7-Eleven.
I forgot there's a Checkers out there.
More places are coming, and, they're coming fast. And I can't wait.
Are you at Spring Creek?
No, I'm not at Spring Creek, but I have houses under contract in Spring Creek. I like the area. I think that is for me, it was the best decision because I knew I wanted to be in the Richmond and Charlottesville market, or at least when I was on the contractor side, I was thinking foolproof because this is right as we were coming out of the 2008 recessions. I was trying to think about longevity and how can I support my family. And at the time, I was just a contractor, and that's my main source of income. So I was like, okay, two big cities, Charlottesville and Richmond, always have a need. And so Zion's Crossroad is that great middle point. It's a little closer to the Charlottesville area, but it's a great midpoint for somebody that's looking to be dynamic in a work field.
For you, are you seeing more conversations with ARMs with clients? That's also for Kerry, but let's start with Scott on that.
So, yes and no. The market has made some of them they don't price as well as you would think that they would, just because short-term volatility makes them not as attractive as they could be. But, it depends on then who it is and what exactly they're looking for. Some people are willing to get in just for the fact that, and again, it takes the right buyer. I typically don't recommend that to be your first-time home buyer option. But they're out there, but as long as short-term debt is as volatile it is, they're not pricing quite as well as they probably could be.
How about you, Karen?
I don't do a whole lot of them, not because I don't do them. It's just because, if there's a better alternative for a buyer, and again, it just all depends on their goals. Like Scott said, for the short term or the first time home buyer, it's not an ideal because, unless you have somebody that is consistently knowledgeable about it, or you have a lender following up with you and be like, hey, it's about to go up. Would you like to try to do something else? I just don't think it's the right move for most people. Unless they know what they're doing. Some people, they're savvy like that. And so, it just depends on their skill set.
Brent Smith giving you props.
Hey, what's up, buddy?
You're getting love from Daniel Joseph Romano right now.
I'm trying to get him to be a real estate agent, too.
Brittany Gray, the realtor, watching the program.
Brittany.
Luke Dravo, Chris Frazier, Ryan Paul.
Nice.
Isaiah Vincent, Joshua Ostrowski, Tori McDaniel, all giving you love.
That's nice. I love people.
You're well liked. So get close with this. What do you think what's the expectation for both you guys for the back half of the year?
Ooh, I'm grind. Put on my, pull myself up by the bootstraps and just get after it. Second parts of the years usually tend to be better for me. It's because that summer season kind of energizes me in spring market. So I start to get real energetic, more hyper than what I already am.
What do you think I like the energy. What do you think the market's going to do?
I think it's, I'm an extremely optimistic person. So I think there's going to be an uptick as people start to see that their rates are not going to skyrocket and continue to go up. I think once people start to see it plateau just a little bit, they're going to be like, oh, not as terrible. And with rents going up the way they are, I think it's going to be a great conversation piece for all real estate agents and mortgage brokers to say, hey, listen, are you tired of paying $2,200 of rent for a 1,200 square foot home? Have you ever thought about being a homeowner?
It's 100%. I think we continue to see more inventory, and we have so far. I think we're gonna see, we're at a plateau as far as rates. We may tick back up, but we're gonna kind of bounce back and forth between where we are now and maybe where we were a few weeks ago. I think that's gonna be the theme going through the rest of the year.
Any message you want to get out, Kerry, to the buyers and sellers?
Yeah, stay diligent. The selling market is still a good market. It's still a great time to buy a home. It's better than renting because, well, just depending on what your needs are. You're investing in yourself and putting equity in your pocket versus somebody else, and just stay diligent. The right house is going to come along. I can say, those buyers that have been disappointed in the past, that lost a deal, by the time we get to the end of the transaction, and I've heard many agents on your show say it, by the time they get to the end of their transaction and finally snag a home, they're so grateful that they waited and nothing else worked out until that particular house. So.
Just because you thought those other 7 were the one does not mean that they were the one. So just keep going. That's the main thing. Try to keep the negativity of what's going on with the markets and the news and everything else doesn't affect you individually. It really doesn't. The decision's never as big as that part of the decision isn't as big as anything else, because if you're making a decision that's best for you and for your family, and if 12 months from now we're putting you into a lower mortgage rate anyways through a refinance, then all the better.
Dan Pettit, he thinks rates by Q1 next year will be below 5%. That's what you said?
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
That'd
be nice.
So Dan Pettit's asking where do you think rates will go? He said Q1 next year below 5%. We'll close with this from Jennifer. It's a great question. Jennifer Lawson, she says, is this their best year in business, 2022?
No.
I'm
To be determined?
To be determined,
Yeah.
but we saw a pretty smoking hot 2020, 2021.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, projected what I'm doing now, it could be, but 2021 was a great year. But as far as the numbers go, I'm on track to beat what I did last year.
Robert Walters, he got us in our first home. He's great with Virginia loans. Kerry is the man.
Yeah, I love it. Thank you all.
Robert Walters says, Kerry Griggs, great realtor. Brittany Gray, hey Kerry, love working with you. Happy to sell more homes with you at Spring Creek and
Nice.
Colonial Circle. 200 plus homes coming soon for your buyers.
Yeah.
Wow.
Nice.
That's
I like
good.
that.
Yeah. she
Brittany
was
Gray
great.
with the inventory. Stanley Martin, right? Is that right with Brittany? We love when you watch the program, Brittany. All right, get us out of here on anything else you want to cover, Scott Morris. So the show is yours, my friend.
Gosh, I think we talked about the market stuff. So really, it's just kind of let's see. We got rates. We got the stock market. We got Fed speak coming out today. All of those things, I think, are going to be a lot of noise towards where we go in the short-term future. I think we see rates tick up a little bit over the next 3 weeks or so, but I think it's really going to be, it's not like a big uptick. I think we're just going to kind of be balancing back and forth between 5.25 and 5.5 is, kind of a rule of thumb.
There you go. Judah Whitcomb, good job. Thank you for watching, guys. Kerry Griggs, you're great.
Thanks.
Yeah,
I
seriously,
appreciate
man.
being on the show. You guys are awesome.
He is just great in this setting. Scott Morris is always good. The Wednesday edition of Real Talk is presented by Ross Mortgage. Judah Whitcower is our director. The I Love Seville show is up at 12:30, where we will chatter some of the topics we didn't get to yesterday. Thank you for joining us, guys. We will see you in about an hour and change. Take care. Kerry, well done.
Nice.
Yes,
Thanks,
sir.
guys.
Sorry, I'm full of allergy medicine.
It's okay.